doing a little opposite here, talking about, I would probably argue, one of the worst, maybe not the worst in the league, but definitely the worst in the USFL conference. The Memphis Showboats. They are not really, I guess on their rosters, there is not a lot of these guys who are high in their receiving numbers in regards to spring football. And I think that's something that should be taken into consideration. Their highest receiver last year was Vinny Papale. And Vinny Papale, I know I'm probably butchering that. The only thing that kind of is interesting about him is he's the son of the former Philadelphia Eagles, Vince Papale, who was in that movie and that film Invincible. So it's that guy's son. So it's kind of cool that this guy's, playing in kind of his father's footsteps. But last season, he only had 345 yards in all 10 games that he played and only scored 3 touchdowns. And their top receiver in terms of receiving yards and touchdowns scored and whatnot. The guys behind him, they're all kind of about the same. They're about average at the end of the season, having about 200-ish yards. And so they don't have, at least that I'm seeing right now when I'm looking at this roster, they don't have that kind of number one guy to throw to. The guy that has scored over hundreds and hundreds of yards in regards to being a standout number one guy. Granted, they do have some really, really well, a really, really good return guys, and that are also wide receivers as well. So that's something that I think is going to be positive for the Memphis Showboats. Derek Dillon and Ryan McDaniel are two of those guys that were probably the best in the USFL last year in regards to returning the football. So expect their special teams play, and especially when it comes to returning the football, to be top notch. But these guys were just average receivers when it came to playing the slot and making routes and getting separation. So interesting to see if those guys will jump off this upcoming season. The only other addition that they made, because both Derek Dillon and Ryan McDaniel did play for the Showboats last season, the only other addition that has kind of a bigger name on their roster this past offseason is Jonathan Adams. And Jonathan Adams played for the New Orleans Breakers in 2022 and 2023. And he did really, really well, especially in the 2022 season, his first season, where he finished 5th in the league for receiving yards for the season at about 406 yards with 5 touchdowns, which doesn't seem like a lot, but especially on the Breakers team that first year, he was one of their leading guys. So if Jonathan Adams can come in and kind of be that number one guy for them, I definitely can see this wide receiver room going a lot further than it already has. But there's just too many kind of average and below average guys on this roster right now that it's going to be interesting to see if any of them have breakout seasons. If I have to put my money on any, I think Jonathan Adams will be that number one guy in Memphis. But I have to say that, despite having Case Cookus at quarterback, despite having a really good return game, this is probably one of the weakest wide receiver rooms when it comes to the UFL.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. They have a lot of guys that just kind of make you shrug your shoulders, and you're like, yeah, I mean, nothing special. Maybe they have a few guys who can get the job done, but no one that's really going to scare opposing defenses.
Thank you for joining us on the Redzone Rodeo podcast.
If you like football and you like having fun, come on down and subscribe and check out our channel for more videos like this one.
No ifs, ands, or buts. This is the best place for your football news.